My name's Darcy and I'm one of the exercise physiologists at Milestone Health and Performance. We're a Melbourne-based mobile exercise physiology clinic, and today what I'm going to go through is 3 tips to help improve your balance. Now, the first thing to have a look at is if you are having falls, why you are having falls. And this can be a really key part of finding the information of the thing that's going to help you to improve the most. There are a few different reasons why you may fall. The first one, you're looking at dizziness, or if you can't remember what's happened. This one is an important one, as it's a sign as you may need to go and speak to your GP or doctor regarding this, because it can be due to some underlying medical conditions. It can be due to medication or other issues, and it's something that needs further investigation. Other reasons, we've got slip. So you've slipped on something on the floor. There may be something slippery that you've slipped over. It may not necessarily be an object, but this is something where you can clear the way and make sure there's nothing in the area which may slip over. Trip, which is tripping, so it may be tripping over items. It can be scuffing the front of your feet. So if you have a look at the bottom of your shoes, if there's a lot of wear on the front of your shoes, there's a sign you may be scuffing your feet and at risk of tripping. Loss of balance. So this can be caused by putting yourself in situations where it might be hard to hold on to your balance, or it can be in normal everyday situations. And fatigue and legs giving away. So getting really tired to a point where you can no longer stand, and this is something which indicates that strength could be something that helps. The first tip is really relevant if you are tripping a lot or if you are feeling like you're losing your balance, is walking with your heels first and pointing your toes where you want to go. So a lot of the time when people lose their balance, or that they feel like their balance isn't good anymore, they tend to walk with flat feet, because having a bigger surface area of contact with the ground makes you feel like your balance is better. But in reality, it can lead to walking looking quite stiff, and the balance is actually not quite as good as what it would be if you led with your heels first and rolled through your toes, which is a normal way of walking. And by going back to it and putting your heels down first, and it doesn't have to be like heels down first and your toes right up there. All it has to be is heel contact first, and it can lead to reduced incidence of tripping. So getting your feet caught in cracks in the concrete or in the footpath, or just tripping over general things, but it also leads to more efficient walking. The second tip that we've got is working on your hip strength. So from an exercise point of view, there's a couple of things you can do. So you can work on your balance directly, you can work on your leg strength, and you can work on your hip strength. So a lot of what's going to help the most is really dependent on what's the limiting factor, right? And what's the hardest thing for you to do. So a lot of balance comes from your hips. If you've got strong glutes, which is the muscles on the sides of your hips, you're able to maintain side-to-side balance really well. So working on strength exercises such as different split stance exercises. So what that does is it brings your hips in as a stabilizer. So things such as split stance rotations, where you're holding onto a band, you're pulling it to the side with your inside foot in front on the same side as the band. 1 foot forward, your back foot on your toe, and you're moving a weight from side to side. Working on these kind of things can really help with your hip strength, and in turn really improve your balance if loss of balance is one of the main issues that you're getting here. It's important to pick an exercise which is challenging but not too hard, because if it is too hard, you're at risk of falling while practicing these things, and you won't get the improvement that we are after. So it's a bit of a sweet spot between something that's not too easy, that you could do 100 reps of something, but something that you could comfortably do, say between 8 and 12 of those exercises, and feel like you've got 1 or 2 left in the tank. So everything doesn't have to be at 100%. And I think that's a key tip, is practicing these things, but not pushing yourself so hard that every set is a maximal effort. You only need to get enough of an effort to get an improvement. The third tip I've got is to work on balance and leg strength. So when we look at balance, it's all about how big your base of support is. So picture these are your feet here, the 2 hands. So when we look at balance, the easiest way to balance is with your feet apart, and it's actually feet apart and split. So we draw a box around where your feet are. So that's a really wide base of support here. So that's your easiest way to balance. What we want to identify here is something that you can hold for between 5 and 30 seconds. while it being reasonably challenging. If you can do over 30 seconds, generally it means the exercise is too easy. If you can't do more than 5 seconds, generally I'd consider that controlled falling. So there's not a huge benefit for practicing that exercise if you can only do it for a couple of seconds. And just to clarify with this, these exercises are to be done without holding on, but just make sure that you're more than capable of doing it, and that if you need supervision, ask someone to help you with this so you're not at risk of falling too. A really good spot to do this at home is behind the sink, because it is a fixed object. It's something you can hold on to that's not going to go anywhere if you catch yourself while you're a little bit off balance. But what we look at is you've got feet wide, that's your easiest one. Then you put feet wide split apart, and then feet wide. When you're doing ones like feet wide split apart, make sure you practice both sides too. You got feet together. Then we have a look at like a closer split stance. So that's a smaller base of support here. One foot in front of the other, then standing on one foot, and then 1 foot on foam. So it's looking for something that has that difficulty that you can do for between 5 and 30 seconds without holding on comfortably, and that you don't feel like you're gonna fall. So a little bit challenging, but not too hard. The other aspect to balance and strength, so we've looked at hip and glute strength, is leg strength as well. So especially if you find that you might not be able to stand up more than 10 times from a chair within 30 seconds, it is a really good indicator that, and this is without using your hands, it's a really good indicator that leg strength is something that needs to be worked on and that will help. So looking at things like standing up and sitting down, exercises such as lunges, which holding on doesn't matter because it is a strength exercise that we're trying to practice and improve, but improving these things can lead to falling less often or less risk of falling, but also improving balance overall. To summarize what we've been through today, the 3 top tips to improve balance. We're looking at walking with your heels first and pointing your toes forward. We're looking at working on hip strength, so improving things through exercises such as band rotation, split stance, weight transfers, and other split stance exercises. And what I mean by split stance, you've got 1 foot flat, your other foot on your toe. It's that back foot on the toe, and what it does is it makes you use your hips to stabilize, which is really important for balance. And the third tip is working on some exercises to help with your balance, something that you can do between 5 and 30 seconds. So looking at either 1 foot in front of the other, standing with 1 foot behind the other one a little bit wider. And also with this, you can lift that heel. So it is working on hip strength at the same time, but it's just finding something that's easy enough to do that you don't feel like you're going to fall over, but challenging enough that you do have to concentrate and put a little bit of effort to balance like that, as well as working on your leg strength. And try these things, see if they help with your balance. Any questions, please feel free to send me a message or comment below. And those are the 3 best things to help with improving your balance.